Hello and welcome back to a new episode. I'm Woifi.
And I'm Dani.
Oh, and this is Translating Love.
I was going to say a new episode of what? Maybe
the people were completely confused. What am I listening to? What is this thing? Is this radio or music? We're back with a new episode.
A new podcast episode.
A new podcast episode. And we have I think, an interesting topic today that came to me yesterday. And since...
In a dream?
In a dream, no. Just like during the day. Yeah. But since last week's episode, which was...
Are you trying to think of what the episode was about?
Yeah.
Sex.
Oh, yeah, sex. Right, that one. Since last week's episode was kind of fun and lighthearted and not as like dark or heavy as other topics we have discussed, I thought let's do another lighter or funnier or lighter topic podcast podcast whatever. And here we are again with a new topic that is not as...
And do you want to say what the topic is?
I mean people know already.
Already.
It's happiness. It's being happy. It's just this little thing that we're all after. But before we go into the episode, we just want to thank you all. Y'all, for listening, for sharing, for complimenting us on the things we do.
For supporting the podcast.
Yeah, right. And it's especially cool if someone comes up in real life and tells you like, hey, I'm listening to your podcast and I really enjoy it. And that's kind of cool. That doesn't happen often.
But it happens.
It's
cool.
And it's kind of cool because, we're sitting here talking into a microphone and you are listening to the same thing while you're driving to work or working out or
pooping
or peeing or cooking or running or dancing.
That'd be
or
weird
sleeping,
if you listen to a podcast while you dance.
Cycling or baking or shopping or...
I think we get the point.
Right. So, yeah, that's kind of cool. And which is also not exciting is the fact that nobody has sent us a little voice clip yet.
That's not exciting.
On anchor.fm/translating-love.
We would really, really like if someone sent us a little voice message.
Yeah, if it's just a little feedback or a little question or just, I don't know.
And for our German or Austrian listeners, you can always send it in German.
Ja, voll. Das ist kein Problem.
Yeah, because we both understand it. And
das ist kein Problem.
It's really nice German.
Ja, schickt uns einfach eine neue Nachricht über anchor.fm/translating-love und wir beantworten sie hier on air. And now for our Austrian friends, oder schickt uns einfach eine Nachricht, ja. Geht's aufs Internet, da am Computer drauf, druckt's drauf und schickt's uns das. So I think we have everyone. Sorry if we don't speak Spanish, Russian, French, or any other language, but I think you get what we want from you.
I'm signing it right now too, so all of our...
Oh, yeah, she does sign language. I can translate it. She's saying, go to anchor.fm/translating-love and send us a message. So, let's get into the podcast.
Let's do it.
So, happiness is our podcast theme topic today. And it's not only about happiness in a relationship or being happy in a relationship, because that's the whole topic is immensely big, so we're not going to go super
deep into it
because that's not possible in the amount of time we have, and also that's not our main topic. So but still I think it's a good and also important topic to talk about, because I think most of us at least are, I don't know, longing for happiness in our lives.
And searching for it.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know, like happiness is something that is probably defined by a lot of people through different things. I mean, I think media or like the I don't know, movies or maybe also like social media tells us that happiness is also equally to having money, having fame, being famous, and all of that, like having expensive stuff makes you happy and stuff like that. Which, I mean, if you read books about happiness and if you just, I don't know, look behind that stuff, if with that stuff comes a lot of other shit that goes down.
And that stuff doesn't buy happiness,
right.
and it doesn't bring you happiness. It might bring you some joy and you might feel good with some of that stuff, but that doesn't equate to happiness,
right.
I don't think. I think happiness comes from within yourself. It's not something that you find somewhere or something that you buy or...
Right.
Yeah. It comes from within you.
That's exactly the point. Happiness is nothing that can be bought.
Yeah.
Happiness can be made in like a relationship or like in a family.
But with that, I think it's important to say that happiness isn't given to you by another person.
No.
I think it's really important because a lot of people think that, oh, when I'm in a relationship, then I'll be happy. Or when I have somebody, then I'll be happy. Mm-hmm. Or this person is the reason that I'm happy. And the sentiment of that especially is really nice because my relationship with Wolfgang is a massive reason why I'm happy. But it's not, he doesn't make me happy. It's so hard to phrase that
I know what you mean. I know
you do make me happy, but you are not the source of my happiness.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, I could still be happy if I weren't in this relationship.
Yeah.
That's not what I want, but it's such a hard thing to describe
without
it sounding mean.
I think that's a big part to, I mean, if you just think back when you were younger and you had like no sorrows at all and everything seemed like so fun and playful and there were no money problems and no like being sick problems and loss and stuff like that was not really that big of a trouble. But once you grow up and once you grow older, all of that stuff becomes more part of your life. And so life is a fucking bumpy road sometimes, and life throws shit at you, and sometimes a lot at the same, or at least it feels like at the same time. But even then, even in like really hard days, hard weeks, hard months, years, whatever, or right now, even with COVID, with this horrible thing that has basically gotten around the world, and a lot of countries are struggling. I mean, almost every country is struggling still with it, and we are going to struggle with it for another few months.
At least.
So even now you can be happy, even though it's hard to be and feel happy with all the shit that you hear from the media and see, and maybe also experience firsthand if you work like in the medical field, or if you have lost someone through the whole horrible tragedy. Even right now, it's still possible to be happy, and it's not.
And I think that especially in times like this, it shows us what's really important in life. It makes you take a look at what's important in life and what isn't important in life. What things can I live without that I thought I needed, but I actually don't need to be happy. Right.
I think that at least the shutdown, I think, was a big part of showing us what is really important, and that is human connection, is friends, is family, someone you can talk to, someone you can call or video chat to, and just, I don't know, have fun and try to have like fun game nights, or even like sex chatting and stuff like that, you know? It's the human connection that is actually important and nothing else. And yeah, sure, being healthy and that the family is healthy and stuff like that, sure. But overall, I mean, with the whole happiness concept and being happy and stuff like that, there comes so much more. Like, for example, I mean, death is a major part in life, and being content with that and being accepting that part of life is also a step forward to happiness, because we're all going to die at some point, and we don't know when and we don't know how. Thankfully, at least I wouldn't know. I wouldn't want to know.
I wouldn't want to know either, but this is also an episode about happiness, and you're talking about dying.
No, but it's essential part of life. And what I want to say is that being content with life and death and accepting death is freeing and making life more. I don't know. You live life more purposefully. You try to enjoy the moments more purposefully because you're aware that at some point it's over. And the thing is, nobody goes out every day and like, I'm going to live this day like it would be my last.
Some people do.
Some people probably do. We try. It's not like we don't try, but we try, and we have those moments where you just are somewhere completely, like maybe in nature, in the woods, or you are having like a hiking day or in the mountains or somewhere where it's just, I don't know, like this little epiphanies, and where you see, oh my God, this moment is so perfect, or this moment is so beautiful, and you treasure this moment for a month. Everyone has those moments, and exactly those moments show you what real happiness is about. It's not about a fucking dream house, a fucking car, or jewelry, or tons of money. It's about like those simple moments in life where everything seems perfect, even though it's not the case. And even though...
Well, and on the other side of it, there is no happiness without suffering, I think.
Right.
So you appreciate the joyous moments so much more when you have had moments of suffering and pain, because I think we've talked about this on the podcast before, where in my opinion, I think the most beautiful thing about being human is that we can be so fucking low and we can be in such a dark place and still manage to come out on the other side and completely learn from the situation that happened, or grow from what happened, and be happy and content and joyous. And I think that's one of the greatest things about being human, is being able to feel all of those things.
Yeah, I mean, it can be overwhelming, and at some point you have to maybe take yourself back a little bit from, especially right now, from all the news, and everyone has different opinion about everything, and the whole stuff that goes on in social media. We don't want to talk about that. but so at some point you have to take yourself out of that, because we're not made to take all of that in. And some people feel that stuff. Some people take that personally, and that can be, it can be hard on yourself. But it's a good point that life is up and downs, and it's a process. There is no, at least that's what I believe, that there's no like eternal happiness, or like in the movies where they say, and they got married and lived happily ever after. That's bullshit, because right there when they got married, shit started. And
I mean, before that shit started.
I mean, you're in the honeymoon phase, and then everything's lovey-dovey. But after you got married and after you've been together for a while, shit starts.
See, but I don't necessarily think that. I think it's more true because most people get married after they've been dating for a while, and technically the honeymoon phase is over by then. There might be some little flicker of a phase right when you get married, but for us it was more
movies and to the whole picture of that.
But I think in general, because that's how it was for us, and I know a lot of people who say the same thing. People ask, and how do you feel like after you get married, and you feel the same?
But that's what I mean. I mean, in terms of happiness, it's work, it's progress. You have to work on yourself. You have to change. Life is changing, or everything's changing around you. And I know a lot of people who refuse to change. I know a lot of people who just like say, it's been done like this all our lives. Why should I change now? Why should we change now? But change is something that happens, and you can.
And change is good.
Right, change is good. And
change is growth.
Right. And with that growth, you learn more about yourself. You learn more about life, and you learn more about what it means to be happy.
And the change, just because change is good, doesn't mean that change is positive all the time. Change can be negative, but you still learn from it, and in that sense, change is good. Right. So I think to say change is good is not the same as saying change is positive, because it's not always. Sometimes it's the worst choice that could have been made. Right. But you learn from it, and learning is what's good, because then you can grow from that knowledge.
I mean, a big part of that, like with negative things that happen to you, during life, or could happen, or maybe happen at some point, is that you should at least focus on the things you can change in the moment, because that makes it easier to get rid of like anxiety, fear, and stuff that you maybe can't change. For example, right now with COVID, some people might have the fear of getting COVID, which for some people it might be lethal. But at the same time, if you are cautious, if you wash your hands and wear a mask, blah, blah, all of that stuff, you do everything you can do, and that's it. Everything else is not in your hands. So again, that's something that you shouldn't think about or shouldn't worry about. Or for example, with my thing, getting cancer, I mean, that's something I can't. I mean, I'm living a healthy life. I'm trying to stay healthy and work out and stuff like that. But in the end, it's not in my hands. And it getting hit with by a truck or whatever, you know, or dying like in a plane crash and stuff like that. What I'm trying to say is things that you can't change or prevent or control. Right. Control is the right word. You shouldn't worry about, because that worry leads to anxiety, can lead to depression, and blah, blah, blah. We talked all about that stuff, and that makes you not happy. So therefore, the opposite is good for your mental health and for happiness as well. So if you focus on the things you can control in your life, you're more happy because you can change them actually, and you see a positive outcome or maybe a negative outcome, but then in the end, you learn something about that stuff. For example, if I have a shitty job and I want to change that, it's in my power to change it. Sure, right now it's not that easy to just say, okay, I'm losing a job or I'm leaving my job. But at the same time, I mean, if you have like a better option, or if you could have something better, why not do it? I mean, it makes you happier.
I think that's such a big part of happiness too, is because we have to work. Otherwise, we can't really survive. You need money to get by. And I think such a massive part of happiness is loving what you do for a living, because you do it so much and you do it almost every day of your life. Yeah. And so if you think about, if you're not happy in what you're doing in your career, how can you possibly be happy, like ultimately happy in general? Yep. Because that's the majority. So much of your life is spent working. Yeah. And so much of your almost every single day of the week you're working.
I mean, imagine if you sleep on a mattress, on like a really, really hard mattress for 20 years, you would probably buy a new mattress at some point. And it's the same with work. I mean, you spend a lot of time at work.
So do something that you love. Right. And if you don't love what you do, try to find something that you love.
Or push slowly towards something else, or set a goal and maybe...
That's not to say quit your job right now, because I'm a strong advocate for don't leave something until you have something else. Don't...
But you can, like, I don't know, go back to school or subscribe for some courses or learn something else.
So I think now would be a good time to take a small break. And when we come back, we can dive a little bit more into happiness and what it means to us.
Yeah. Let's take a break. And we're back. We're back from the break, which was not a break. But for
you, it was a break. For us, it was not a break.
Right. So the neighbor just brought cake. Cake, but not vegan. She hands me this massive plate of cake and it looks delicious, and then she says, but it's not vegan. But
gosh darn it,
she said, because she said the only thing is butter. So I said to her, you can just make it with vegan butter next time. And she said, I can. I said, like, yeah, you can. And then she said she will bring us a whole cake this week at some point.
Ooh.
So we'll get a cake with our plums from our plum tree.
Nice.
So yeah.
Oh, it's a plum cake.
Yeah, it looks really good. So okay, that's happiness, by the way. Like neighbors who bring you cake and then make it vegan for you.
Yeah. I mean, we're also good neighbors. When we bake things, we always bring them
stuff
too.
That's true. It's like a give and take or whatever.
We also just love our neighbors.
Right. So yeah, let's go back to happiness. What does happiness mean to you, or what is your what is happiness for you?
I think it's really hard to define, but if I had to just do like an overall or an overview of what happiness is, for me, happiness is, it's being content with where you are in your life. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you want to stay exactly where you are. It's just, I'm happy with the person I am right now. I'm happy of how far I've come from what I've come. And to be accepting of yourself, I think, is also a big part of happiness. To accept things that you maybe didn't like about yourself before. And loving yourself.
Yeah.
And I think it's also, I don't know. I think happiness also is like how you put yourself out into the world. So it's not just how you feel about yourself, but also how you like express yourself to others, because others feed off of your happiness.
Sure. Yeah.
And so if you are confident, because that's also something you put in yourself, you're confident in yourself, but people see that, and you get what you give, I guess. And so, I mean, I'm a strong believer in karma. And I think that if you do good, then good comes back to you. And I think that also is a big source of happiness, to do good for other people and to try to be as selfless as possible, because that brings happiness to others and to yourself.
I mean, nobody wants to spread suffering or hurt or death or whatever. At least I hope so.
I mean, you can't say nobody, because there are people who do, but I guess the large majority does not want that.
So I totally agree with that you should spread love and kindness and happiness to get the same back. And
kind of just like finding your own inner peace is a really important
I mean, that's why meditation and yoga is such a powerful tool to help you be more happy and be more content, because you practice mindfulness, you practice breathing, you just practice to listen to your body and to be one with your body and just being, we call it rund in German, like round.
We would say grounded, I guess.
Grounded, content. I mean, that's what it is. So. And
that's not to say that, I would consider myself a happy person, but that's not to, no, I would.
Oh, you would.
I would consider myself. But that's also not to say that there are times when I'm not happy, or there are times. And I think that's also important, that when people say you should find happiness, that doesn't mean that you're always going to be happy. Like when you find it, it's just there. It's more about learning about yourself and being able to find the happiness when you're not happy or when you're feeling down. And it's not always going to be a constant, but in terms of like every second of every day, but it can be a constant in your life. And I think that's, Don't worry. Be happy. Don't worry, be happy
now. Right. So earlier this year, during the lockdown time, I had a Zoom call with Dan Mace. He's like a YouTube creator and a really cool personality, and someone who I look up to, and also creatively, like
he inspires you.
He inspires me, and he's just a really cool dude. And we like made this collaboration, like he made this collaborative video with a lot of people around the globe, like singing that song we just whistled or sang. It was a fun thing, and I guess that's a big part of me, and where my happiness is coming from, and how I feel happiness is meeting people who are like-minded, and maybe working with people who are like-minded, creating something with them, maybe something that has an impact or is meaningful to other people, and also just I don't know, good conversations and
But those are things that bring you joy and bring you happiness.
That makes me happy too.
But how do you define
I mean,
happiness?
it's part of the things that you already said.
Mm-hmm.
For me, a big part of how I see or how I know that I'm happier right now is just looking back a couple of years, or where I've come from and my path where I'm now, and maybe also where I'm going, like my goals. And the thing is, I never really had a plan, but I reached a lot of goals that I had during my last, I would say, 10 to 15 years. And my 30th birthday is coming up. And just thinking back in my 20s, or in my, like when I was 20, I mean, my life changed completely, obviously, when I was 20. But at the same time, I had still aspirations. I had still like goals that I wanted to, I don't know, get done. Even though it's funny, because even though my goals weren't that clear when I was 20, I was like, I mean, I'm living in a country where I have so many possibilities with studying and stuff like that. I don't have to worry that much about money, because university is basically free.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of options. So it was not easy for me to choose where I want to go. And I didn't really have the full, I don't know, plan or the full perspective yet.
I don't think anybody does.
Right.
Or it's
a lot of people don't. A lot of
do.
people don't. But just by trying things out and by being lucky enough to be able to trying things out, I was driven towards the right path, or at least that felt for me. And looking back to the time and looking where I'm now, I mean, it makes me incredibly happy. And also the changes that happened in the last 2 to 4 years, with you and with being vegan and just trying to focus on a more sustainable lifestyle, and just focusing more on what is really important in life. Not, I don't know, I mean, when I was like 18, 19, I bought so much clothes. I had so many, I had so much stuff laying around.
Me too.
And I mean, I still buy stuff. I still treat myself to things sometimes, but I try to be more content about that stuff and try to be more mindful and also look at that stuff, where it comes
like
from,
where it comes from,
what
how
is
it was
it made
made.
from,
Yeah.
and who am I giving the money towards, and stuff like that. So that alone makes me so much happier. And
especially to know, like, when you buy something and you know that you're supporting a good business or a small business or a woman-run business, things like that, I think are so cool, and they make you appreciate whatever it is that you buy. You appreciate it so much more because you feel good about contributing to that. Yeah. And it's not just, I'm just going to throw a couple bucks out the window at this big company who exploits people and makes billions.
And also, I mean, with my job and everything, I mean, I'm working towards something that is not always easy. But for example, today I'm having not the best day about that stuff because of COVID and how the business is going in the last couple of weeks. And it's not easy to stay positive, but at the same time, I'm super happy that I'm in this position where I can do what I want, like what I love to do. And I'm not the only one who is going through a rough patch right now. And some people have it worse. And so I'm still thankful. And I know that it's going to get better eventually. But that alone brings me so much happiness that, I don't know, I'm in this position where I've never thought I would be in 10 years ago. And I hope, or at least where my goals are, I hope that in 10 or 15 years, I look back and say the same thing again. Like, I would have never thought that at some point in my life, I would be there. At least that's my goal. But I believe in that, and it always happened. So, so that's happiness for me.
I want to share on Instagram. We each posed a question.
Oh, yeah.
My question was, how do you define happiness? And my dear friend Libby, who we've mentioned on this podcast a couple of times, had just the best answer. And she said she defines happiness as being content with your life and knowing that where you are is okay, even if you still have goals.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's, I mean, it's so in line with how I feel about it. Where
that's what I basically just said, yeah.
It just to be patient with yourself and be okay with where things are and be content with where things are.
Yeah.
Even if you still have things you want to do and even if there are still things you want to accomplish, but not to feel like run down by those things that you want to accomplish or overwhelmed by them, but rather to be okay with, this is where I am now. This is where I want to go. And I still want to work to that point.
And that alone is a big part.
And I'm content along the road.
Right. That alone is a big part. You can write that things. You should actually write those things down, especially the goal, to visualize it, to have it in front of you. But also like journaling or stuff like that, you can write the things down that you already achieved from a different perspective, because sometimes you get lost in all that stuff and you feel like, oh, I haven't achieved anything, I haven't done anything with my life and blah, blah. Everyone did. And everyone has come a long way and everyone has gone through a lot of shit.
And sometimes it takes just a little thought, a little sit down and really think about it. Yeah. Where were you 10 years ago? What were you doing 10 years ago?
And you can just write it down.
And even if you were physically doing the same thing, like the same job or, you know, whatever it might be, you as a person have changed so much in the last 5 years, 10 years, whatever it may be.
And you can, again, you can aspire to new goals. You should write down goals like in 5 years or in 10 years, or even just, I want to do this at some point, you know, goals that are achievable and goals that you can work towards to, and you will do that if you visualize them and if you write them down or hang them somewhere you see them every day, or, you know, that's something you should really do. And I believe in that. But for the last part, I think we should just quickly go, because since it's a relationship podcast, we should quickly just dip into, I mean, that's a whole different thing. And maybe we do more about that because it's an interesting topic. But we should also go into building, or how to build a better or happier relationship. Because that's essentially what we're talking about here. We say that every time, but a big part of having a happy and healthy relationship is communication.
It's massive.
That's a massive thing, because with communication you can get rid of stuff that has built up, stuff that is unclear. You can express how you feel, and you know how your partner feels,
and you constantly learn about each other.
You push yourself. At least that's something you should do. You should push yourself. You should try to be better at what you do, because there's always room for improvement. And overall, you should just be open about everything. And that brings us to my next thing, honesty. Honesty is, again, we talked about it, an essential thing in a relationship. When you commit to someone for not just a fling or a short-term relationship, when you commit to someone and you want that to work, you should be honest about it. There should not be any mistrust, any sense of lie or something like that, where that can alone spark some complications or problems down the line. Yeah.
Another important one is respecting your partner and to not take them for granted. And I think that's really important to, I mean, respect in general. You need respect, mutual respect between each other. Otherwise, a relationship can't work. Yeah. But the not taking for granted is also such a big thing, especially the longer that you're in a relationship, because you get comfortable and things get kind of seemingly easy because you have a routine. Yeah. But you don't want to take that for granted and just assume that things are always going to be this way, or this person does this anyway, so I'm going to let them do it, or things like that. But I think in that sense, it's also important to just something as simple as saying I love you is really, it becomes so routine in a relationship. But for me, especially, it's always so important to me I really, really mean it when I say it. When I say it, I never say it as just, oh, it's just an instinctual response, or it's just something we say before we go to sleep. But I mean it every time, and I try to put that into my tone when I say it. And I think that's also important to, when you say I love you to your partner, to not just say it to say it, but to say it because you mean it, and to show that you mean it when you say it. Yeah. So that's another.
A big part is also because you argue, you fight, and you have different views on things, that at some point you will reach a point where you don't agree, and that's fine. Especially with certain stuff, because men and women or different people, whoever you with, doesn't matter. You have different views, you have different experience in life. If you come from different countries or parts of the world, you might have grown up differently.
That's how you grew up in your family.
Right. You got different education, whatever. There might be things that you don't agree, and I think you can work through everything. Sure, if there's something that big of like, okay, I don't want to have kids and I want to have kids, there might be an issue that you can't resolve. But small things, or like things that come up a lot, you can just say, okay, agree to disagree, and that's it. You can move on, and you can also
compromise.
Still compromise.
Exactly.
You can compromise about stuff. So yeah, and
I think going along with that is accepting that some problems can't be solved.
Right.
And that is just how it is sometimes. Sometimes you just won't see eye to eye on something. But depending on what it is, that's okay. You don't have to see eye to eye on everything. And that goes back to respect. As long as you respect each other and respect that somebody has a different view than you, and then accept that, then it can still be okay and it can still work, because you can't solve everything.
Yeah, and that brings me to, I think, the two last parts that are more important. And the one is spend time together, and the other one is also make time to separate, to like be apart. And we talked about this, spending time together is essential, but with that we mean more like quality time.
Yeah, not just your everyday, like, oh, we're gonna, eat dinner together, or we're going to watch a movie, or whatever it might be that is in your routine, but more so making time to spend quality time together, like without distractions, without phones, without, I mean, it can still be going to a movie or watching a movie, but maybe you do it a little different, and maybe you make a little date night out of it, or things that are more quality time. Or
just
with each
a walk,
other.
Just take a walk for an hour and just talk,
or just sit and talk for a while.
Sit and talk and stuff like that, It's
play a game together, or something that you don't normally do.
It's so hard to get carried away, and with the phones, being distracted all the time, it's not that easy. And making time, and that's an effort, and that shows that you want to be in this relationship, and that's also work that you put into a relationship. And the same thing goes for being like apart, for like spending time alone, for making time for yourself, and also giving time to your partner. And because that's also good for them to have some time. And some people don't ask for that. And some people even say they don't want that, but a little me time never fails.
Yeah.
And especially if you have a lot of work to do, or I don't know, stressed with whatever, or with the situation right now. Sure, you don't want to be alone, but at the same time, just like take a bath and read a book for an hour, something like that, or go for a walk alone, or go get some food alone, stuff like that, or meet a friend alone for coffee.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of other things that help you make your relationship happy. And we talk about that stuff in almost every episode. So I think we never go out of I think the underline of almost every episode is to be happy, or to try to overcome certain things in your life, or to try to.
Well, and I think in almost every single episode we've talked about communication and how important it is, because I think it all comes back to communication.
Yeah.
If you don't have good communication with each other, then so much stuff is affected by that, and so much can fall apart when it doesn't have to.
Yeah.
And if you can work on your communication, then so many other things will just kind of naturally fall into place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was a good episode.
I hope so.
I hope that you liked it too, people of the podcast, people who are listening.
People of Earth, people not of Earth.
We hear your comments or your feedback. If you like what you hear, just subscribe or follow, whatever it's called. Give us a review if you can on Apple Podcast or Stitcher.
And please send us a little voice message on Anchor.
Or just hit us up on our Instagram.
Yep.
And also email if you want to write us a longer message. And we are also open for topic suggestions.
Yes,
if you have
always.
If you have like a topic, or if you want to hear more of a topic.
Yeah, if we already covered something, but you're like, oh, that could be interesting to talk more about it, or
Right.
then, if you have like a follow-up question about something, even that we would be happy to address.
Right. So with that, we see you next time.
We bid you adieu.
We bid you adieu and have a very well... No, I like the one quote from Truman Show.
Yeah.
Good morning.
In case I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night.
No, he says good morning, and in case I don't see you, good day.
No, it's not good day.
No, it's not.
It's good morning. And in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. That's it.
Really?
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
That sounds right. Oh, yeah, there. In case I don't see you later, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Enjoy your day, whatever you're doing. Stay safe, and see you, hear you, or you listen next time. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.